All right, just a little something about our agenda today. We have until 1 o'clock Pacific. We're actually going to, the last 30 minutes of that is just for unstructured question and answer. After a short intro, which we've started already, we'll talk about needs, universal human needs versus strategies. That is one of the foundational distinctions of the practice of nonviolent communication. And then we're going to leverage universal human needs for simple empathic listening. So you're going to walk out of here with some skills that you can use in your everyday life from this workshop. And there's so much more. Of course, we hope that you'll join us in the series, but even if you just walk away with today, you'll walk away with the skill, a basic skill of empathy. And then we'll have a closing circle, hoping to listen to how people are doing. And like I said, we'll end with 30 minutes of Q&A, unstructured. So we talked about the tree of life. This is a similar version, starting with self-empathy in the bottom and strategies on the top. Strategies are where most of Western civilization lives. You know, strategies being how we get our needs met. And we'll talk more about that later. But NVC is really about connection. Connection not only within yourself, but also with other people. And also the more than human world is an area where I'm really expanding my nonviolent communication practice to connect with, you know, trees and rocks and the natural world. But that's a different series. And so today we're going to be focused mostly on empathy. And we're going to be starting with the skill, which I'm actually borrowing this list of skills from Pathways to Liberation. And this is actually a book now, authored by Jim Mansky. I think it's called, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but Jim Mansky has a book on the matrix of practicing nonviolent communication. So needs consciousness, awareness, and willingness to honor needs, the essential, universal, elemental qualities of life, like sustenance, love, and meaning. So what a beautiful thing to have our children grow up with this language of needs, talking about meaningful things like sustenance, education, love, and sense of community. So what we're going to do now is talk about, we'll do this as a group, as to discuss what it is that you do for fun. And we're going to make a list of 3 or 4 things that you do for fun. And then we're going to figure out, well, what needs could be behind that. And we're going to engage our imagination, right? To figure out what needs are there. Talia, I see that your hand is up. Do you have a question to ask, or is that left over from last time? Okay, thanks, Talia.
That was left over. Sorry, I'll take it down.
No problem. And we can lower your hand as well. Letitia, if you could, help out with that. All right, so we're gonna make a list of strategies. What do you do for fun? And we'll get this from the group. And I only want three strategies. So go ahead and speak up. Nikki, I see your hands up.
I do like jujitsu and Muay Thai, which is like MMA fighting.
Jiu-jitsu. So practicing jiu-jitsu, martial arts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thanks, Nikki.
No problem.
And who else raised their hand?
I did. I play piano.
Okay, playing the piano. All right, one more. And I see that, let's see, Brian. Go ahead.
I play chess.
All right.
Improve my
Playing
chess game.
chess.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add one just because I like to do this. Going for a hike. All right. So I think this was you, Nikki. So so the invitation here is for, let's imagine why, Nikki, why do you practice jujitsu? What are the needs behind your martial arts practice?
There may be something about like learning and growth. The thing I like strategically wise is I'm this tiny girl in this really big male dominated sport, and I like being able to like succeed in pinning people, tapping them out, evading being tapped. So
Yeah.
there's
Could that
something-
be around like equity or maybe empowerment?
empowerment? Definitely.
And could there be also something around like safety?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, so safety, equity, growth. Is there also something around like health and well-being for you?
Oh, absolutely. And movement. So fun, play. There's a lot of play in that.
Movement, fun. All right. Thank you.
Thank
There's a
you.
lot of needs met in there. So let's go to the playing the piano. Whoever said that, if you could imagine, why do you play the piano? What's in it for you?
I think it's a few different things. One is there's something about just the act of playing the notes, hearing the tones, and there's a lot of self-expression that's really satisfying. Just like the music that it produces is nourishing.
Mm,
It's creativity, and there's a lot of I notice this is very like emotionally therapeutic
mm.
as
Maybe
well.
like self-connection, maybe?
Well, if I'm
Maybe.
having a strong emotion, playing piano helps.
So maybe like self-healing or something like that.
Yeah, there's some of that. And also stress reduction. Like during the pandemic, that was one of the ways that I relieved stress.
Yeah. So maybe inner peace, could that be the need behind it? Stress reduction for what reason?
Yeah.
Relaxation?
Self-care, maybe.
Yeah, so caring. Yeah, so sense of caring for yourself. Yeah. And when you play the piano, is there also like a sense of mastery or like skill?
Yeah, there is. That's for sure. Yeah. You get better the more you practice, and that's fun.
Yeah, skill, mastery. And you said something around the notes being played. Is that something like, could it meet your needs for harmony?
Beauty, appreciation of beauty, maybe,
Yeah, beauty.
like it's very satisfying.
Yeah, so beauty, maybe even celebration of life or something like that. Yeah, all right. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure there's more that we could dig, if we go deeper into it. So playing chess, whoever spoke up around playing chess.
That was me. I also play the piano, so I like connect with everything that was just said. But with regards to playing chess, I think it has to do with the simplicity, and it's a way to relieve the mind from all the complex things that are happening in life, and a need for
Like regeneration?
say it again.
Regeneration or relaxation,
Yeah,
leisure?
definitely relaxation, maybe an element of escapism, I'd say. I think that has to do with a lot of hobbies, like it's just
Yeah, so
all that
maybe
matters is what's on the board.
could it be freedom?
Yeah, I guess maybe a little bit. There's also intellectual growth. You're scored on it. So when you play online chess, so you can see a self-improvement happen.
Yeah, so personal
It's
growth. Yeah.
definitely that. Also, there's a giant chess community, so longing for connection around something that doesn't have anything to do with my profession or,
Yes, sense of community.
so yeah, it's connection around something that like everyone can fully understand. There's like a shared language, I guess,
Yeah, so maybe some
that
shared
goes around.
reality or something like
Yeah,
that.
a shared reality. Yeah,
And I definitely, I'm imagining skill or mastery is,
definitely that. And you can see it happen and you can feel it, and you're like, oh, all of a sudden I'm thinking like 3 steps ahead. And it also helps I feel like it's helping me in life. I just kind of got back into it, so it's helping me think about strategy, like with my own life, like if this then this happens, or these
yeah,
3 things could happen if I do this, and
maybe
then what
like
are my responses to these things.
clarity of thought or something like
Yeah,
that. Need for clarity.
definitely.
Yeah, so maybe a
It's
sense of
pretty cool.
empowerment.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yep.
there's a lot of needs met in there, huh?
Yeah, it's weird, but it's true.
Yeah, my son and I play chess online, and even when we're backpacking, we take our little chess set there. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and the last one, I had to put it in there because it's one of my favorite things to do, is a hike in nature. And gosh, oh wow, so like beauty for sure, beauty, connection, health. There's a transcendent piece for me, and I'm also gonna teach you of, there's this new need I discovered last year called incendence. In the spirit of Thomas Berry, he wrote a book, The Dream of the Earth. He talks about incendence, going inside of yourself to connect with those, that instinctive reality. So incendence, self-connection, and even communion. Yeah, so I love going for hikes in nature, and I feel really connected there. So so those are some examples of universal human needs, and we'll talk about what some of the definitions are. Like, so being more specific as to what they are. So strategies are what we use or do to meet our needs. And it's anything related to a person, location, action, time, or object. So so like playing chess with my son. So it's he's the person and the action is playing chess. And the location actually for us was in the Ventana wilderness. And jiu-jitsu is an action as well. And conflict happens at the strategy level. So it's important for us to recognize where conflict arises. And typically it has something to do with our strategy. And that's really where a lot of Western civilization shows up, is through that conflict of strategies. So the cool thing about needs is their intrinsic motivation seeking fulfillment. And there's other definitions out there that I enjoy as well, but it's like there's something in us that's motivating behavior. Another definition that I like is like life energy in us seeking fulfillment. And I got that from Julie Green. Yes, another trainer out of the Bay Area. And so the idea is we engage our imagination, like imagining like, why is this strategy so important? So, and that'll help us to identify what needs are behind the strategy. And when we, if you choose to join the series, we'll also investigate, we'll use our imagination to connect with needs that might be behind feelings. So again, engaging our imagination. So we might have a feeling going on and imagining why that feeling is coming up. And so the cool thing is needs are universal, that I'm going to say every being on the planet, human and non-human, can relate to needs at some level, at some point in time. And so needs are independent of person, location, action, time, and object. So there is no conflict at the level of needs. So I want you to think about that for a second. This is, one of the foundational concepts of the practice of nonviolent communication. There is no conflict at the level of needs. Needs are in harmony with each other. It's only when we get into strategies that conflict can arise. And one of the examples that I use often as like in relationship is about connection, right? Connection, finding that shared reality, getting into the sense of mutual understanding, hopefully, gathering what needs are alive in the conversation. And in the kind of relationships I want to have, there's also a great deal of autonomy, right? So autonomy is, hey, I have freedom. I have the ability to choose. I have agency in the relationship. So, so those are not in conflict at the needs level. We're all in harmony. So I see a question there, Talia. Thanks for raising your hand. Do you want to go ahead and?
Hi, I wasn't sure if it was appropriate to jump in and ask questions, or we're doing that at the end.
This is a great point. Yeah.
When you were speaking, and I kind of still am in a conflict with a friend who she didn't express her needs clearly. And so I didn't hear them. I didn't hear what she, I didn't respond the way she wanted me to. And if I would have heard that, I absolutely would have. But so is the strategy our communication, like communicating our needs? Is that the strategy?
Sure.
Okay.
So and we actually go through this a little bit more depth in the series, but the strategy for connection would be to communicate needs and to listen with needs and to listen with empathy and to express, compassionately, going back to the tree of life, right? So, so nonviolent communication can be seen as a strategy for connection. Those things that we choose to focus our attention on. Yeah, so thanks for asking. Does that make sense, Talia?
Absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking she would say that the level, I like what you said about there is no conflict at the level of needs. And so that takes a little bit of, to understand that a bit deeper, because I don't think many people recognize that. Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up, Talia. And gosh, I want to invite Letitia. Letitia, I love that Letitia uses different words to describe the same thing. And Letitia, you want to speak about needs and how they live for you?
Sure. The needs part of this it's part of the reason that I'm still here after a couple of years, because it sounds simple and everyone nods their head, but when you really get into it, it's so deep. And so, Talia, just to use your example, I'm nodding my head because it's the perfect way to think about, with your friend or a spouse, and you're arguing about something and everyone's so upset. But in reality, when you are able to fully own your own needs, and, I have tools to understand what the difference between a need and a strategy. So, going out to dinner is a strategy. It's not a need, right? So it's like if we're fighting about going out to dinner, it kind of can take the sting out of it because you're like, oh, wait a minute, what? That's just a strategy. If what we need is food and sustenance, which is a need, then we can talk about a strategy to fulfill that need that serves both of us, if that's what we want to do. Does that make sense? So it's such a simple thing, but and again, as an American woman, we're not taught to focus on our needs, which I call, it's the way divine energy patterns through us. Everyone's needs are unique. My combination of needs is different than yours. So once you can really connect to that within yourself, it gives you the space to let the people in your life have their needs and to feel compassion for them, even though they're completely different than yours.
Thank you, Letitia.
I have a question.
Is that Julie?
It's Judy.
Judy, go ahead,
Yeah.
Judy. What's your question?
So I'm confused with the needs thing, okay? If someone has a need for power and control, and the other person has a need for clear communication, is the issue that the person with power and control is not expressing their need for that? Or is it a clash of basic needs?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question, Judy. One thing that I'd like to say is power and control. I'm not sure that that's a need, at least in the way it lives for me. Control, you're describing some kind of behavior, right? And the needs behind control might be for safety, or maybe they're trying to create ease and flow, or maybe collaboration. I don't know. I don't really know what's behind control, but I see control as a strategy of some sort, a description of behavior. So that's one thing I have to offer. And so can you see how just making that maybe that clarification and distinction is doesn't that shift the focus of the conversation already, right?
Yeah, it does. I think I see some people saying a list of needs might be useful to have, so we haven't, understand what those are.
Yeah, and we'll get there. And the other thing I want to point out is that there might be a judgment that, if you have this idea that they're being controlling, then I might call that, just to highlight in nonviolent communication, we would just highlight that, hey, I have this story, I have this judgment that they're being controlling. So part of the way out of the judgment is to recognize that it's there. And then maybe there's some needs up for you behind your judgment, because you have this story about this person being controlling. Maybe you have this desire for mutuality and for agency, so maybe that's what's coming up for you when you have this story that they're being controlling. How does that land for you, Judy?
That's a good point. that requires a lot of thought and digesting, I think. And it's different in a work situation compared to maybe a familial situation with a sister or something like that, because the needs are different. But I get your point about judgment. It's a very clear thing to understand. Yeah, thank you.
Notice how the focus of attention went from the other person that's being controlling, right? And it goes back to the roots of the tree, right? So back to the roots of the tree. I have this story that this person is being controlling, right? And really what's up for me are these needs for maybe collaboration, maybe my need for agency and to be heard isn't being met.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's part of the transformative power of this practice, is now, instead of having the story about them, you're in tune with what's really true for you, and you can you're more present to yourself. You're more present to what's really true for you. And in the practice of nonviolent communication, you can make choices now instead of reacting. So if you stay in judgment, then you're more likely to react than if you're in tune with what's really true for you. You can make a choice. Now that you're in tune with your needs for collaboration and maybe agency, then you might choose to go down the branch of empathy, right? The branch of, wow, what's up for this other human? What's happening for them? I have this story that, that I was able to translate. But so once you connect to the roots of the tree, you're more, it opens up this natural curiosity and compassion towards the other person. So that's what opens up this tree of life of nonviolent communication. Thanks so much for asking, Judy.
No, thank you.
All right, so I'm noticing the time, and I want to get all of us to get into a little practice. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next section.